Episode number 33 of the VYPEU podcast. I'm Will Turbuck, joined by Ella Hestan. It's Shark Week here on the VYPEU podcast. Of course, we have Ella, who goes to Shadow Creek, and Shadow Creek safety Dejuan Lewis is joining us. Ella, how excited are you for that interview?
Dejuan is such a talented defensive player for the Sharks. I'm excited that he's getting some recognition and putting himself out there, because I think he deserves to be looked at by a few more college programs. But it's going to be a good interview, and I'm excited for this amazing Shark Week.
Yeah, we are glad to have him on. He's a great friend of the show. He's a great guy overall. But did we have a crazy week to start off the playoffs, or what, Ella?
It was crazy. I kid you not. I texted Will and I said, "What is happening? This is absolutely crazy," because there were so many upsets, so many teams that won that should not have, and a bunch of scores that no one really predicted. And this is just, I think it just reflects the whole season leading up to the playoffs of how crazy and insane all of these games have turned out.
Yeah, the two of us first started texting on Thursday night, and I was texting Ashton as well when Tomball just went out there and started dominating Cy Park. I had Cy Park in my original bracket going all the way to the 6A D2 finals. Obviously, that's not going to happen, and my bracket looks a whole lot different now. But wow, Tomball coming out there, put 52 points up on one of the best defensive teams in the state. Cale Helms had 137 yards in the air and 253 on the ground. He's our quarterback. Is Tomball going to be the Cinderella story this year, Ella?
It's really starting to look like it. They are honestly coming out of nowhere in my mind. I feel like their district season was a little bit underwhelming, but they are proving everybody wrong, that no one should have underestimated them for a minute. And Helms is a huge double threat because of how well he can run the ball. And he actually, fun fact, leads the Cougars in rushing yards with over 1,100. And that's over 200 yards more than their running back. And they've just got a great receiving duo in Jaden Gray and Derek Taylor. And this offense is incredible. And I think the defense is doing its job well as well. And they're really coming out in this playoffs to win. And I think it's this game shocked everyone because it didn't seem like they'd been doing very much of that in district, but they're definitely playing hard when it counts.
Yeah, their season was really crazy because we saw them go out there, look really good and out of district. And then they beat Tomball Memorial when we still thought the Tomball Memorial was one of the top teams in that district. And then they were just kind of all over the place. They had to beat Klein in the last week to even make it in. They went 500, 3-3 in district play. We weren't sure what to think at all. That was a true 1 versus 4 matchup. But 15-6A, they did some works on the Cy-Fair district. 3 out of 4 matchups. It would have been 4 out of 4 if not for the heroics from Connor Wigman in that Richland Klein Collins game. That was in the last minute. Another game that went down to the last minute was the one that you were at on Friday, Shadow Creek and Clear Creek. Ella, to be honest, I thought this game was not going to be very close. I thought your Sharks were going to go out there and kind of dominate. What did you see in that game?
I think everyone thought that we were going to come out there and dominate, but I was very impressed with Clear Creek. They were up 21-10 at the end of the first quarter, and I was with my friends, and I kind of told them that I was getting a little worried because this Clear Creek team, I think they knew that they were going to be underestimated going into this game, and said, what the heck? It's the end of the season. Let's just go out with a bang. And they shocked everyone. And I think the defense just was not ready for the weapons that they put out. They did a lot of deep receiving game and rushed the ball really well. And the Shadow Creek defense just struggled to kind of keep up with the patterns the Clear Creek was taking. And it was very interesting to see how the defense adjusted. But then in the second quarter and after halftime, the offense started going again. And Duke Butler ran some great plays with deep receptions and a couple of runs where the backs got through the defensive line and just were able to go get those touchdowns in crucial moments. And it came down to the last second because Clear Creek scored touchdown, recovered their onside kick with a minute left in the game, and the Sharks intercepted what could have been the touchdown that sent the game into overtime in the end zone, and Duke Butler took the knee and we won the game. But it was quite the ride, a lot of nerves, and I was very glad that I got to see and report on that game because it was a very interesting one.
Yeah, I'm taking a look right here. All of the games between 23 and 24 were very close. And in years past, we've often seen Pearland kind of dominate whoever that is. But this year, you're matching up Shadow Creek with Clear Creek. That's a 7-point game. Dawson and Clear Falls, that was a 4-point game. And now if we go to D1, Clear Springs 42-35 over Pearland. That's a 7-point game. So you have to go all the way down to that Dickinson A-Leaf Taylor, which was 49-20. Those other 3 games were 1 possession. And I think that's really interesting because we often look at 23-6A as one of the deeper districts and having at least 1 or 2 teams that will come out and dominate. And none of them did that this year. Shadow Creek didn't even do that this year. So this is, a huge storyline that maybe 23-6A teams kind of beat each other down all year. We saw a lot of defensive heavy games. We saw a lot of really close games. So I'm going to ask you this question and just be honest with me. And you don't have to give your pick for the game this week, but do you think that Shadow Creek is maybe a little bit too tired to make a deep playoff run this year?
I think there's a possibility that they work really hard or always going nonstop, and they've had a lot of close games this season that have taken a toll on them, I think. But I think that they've also learned after this game that they just played against Clear Creek that they're going to have to step up their game to stay in it because they can't keep underestimating teams, and the defense is going to have to be more disciplined from the get-go. And I think that's going to take a lot of physical strength, but also a lot of mental strength for them to be able to do that and make that deep playoff run. So they're really going to have to just stay energized, even if it's difficult, if they want to keep going, because I think they're starting to get a little bit tired out.
Well, they've got a tough task ahead of them this week. CU King coming out of what we call, the best district in the state, probably, with North Shore and Atascocita. Summer Creek was the other team that made the playoffs there. And now we head to 5A, where Fort Bend Marshall, who was my pick to win the 5A D2 championship, lost in the first round last week against Barbers Hill. Barbers Hill was 4th in their district. Fort Bend Marshall was obviously number 1. They were undefeated. They even beat a 6A team early in the season. What happened here, Ella?
I have no clue. I was when this score came out, I was absolutely baffled. Because they were my pick to go 582 state as well, because they're Marshall. Like, they always go far typically, and I don't think anyone would have believed that Barbers Hill is going to beat them, because not any disrespect towards Barbers Hill, but Marshall is a very big powerhouse of 5A, and they always have been. But I think I've said it a lot today already, but I think this was a case of they underestimated Barbers Hill and got a little bit too comfortable being down and dug themselves in too deep a hole to get out of with the amount of time they had left in the game. And it's unfortunate that this happened to them, but Barbers Hill is moving on to the second round. And I think that this makes Crosby the new favorite from Region 3 for state.
Yeah, they very well be. We saw how great of a run they had last year. Crosby may be the favorite, but wow, Marshall in the first round with the roster that they had. I think that Marshall likely saw their schedule in the regular season, knew that they had a lot of games that they were going to dominate in. They didn't play their starters in some games. And I think Coach Williams is probably going to have to look at that, see how they want to move forward. Maybe some guys play on those Saturday morning games or play against the teams that you're going to beat 77-0 either way. So without Chris Marshall, without Jaden Johnson, without all of the talent they had this year, and we know they still have a lot in the program, do you think that Marshall's going to be able to avenge this early playoff loss with a deep run next year?
Oh, absolutely. If as long as they don't repeat what's going on right now, what just happened, I think they're destined for a deep run again because a lot like North Shore, I think Marshall is one of the winning football programs in 5A, and they always have just new waves of talent coming in. They're very good at building their players up from their freshman year to their senior year, and always have just a really good roster behind them. So I think that even with the loss of some of their key players, they'll be able to make that deep run, get past the first round, win their district again, just be the Marshall that everyone expects them to be, and not repeat this shocking loss of this year.
I would have to agree with you. We know the talent that's leaving. First of all, Chris Marshall starts playing football his junior year, and now will be going to A&M, and he's still got a basketball season to play this year. So some upside to it, but I know Jacoby Banks, their quarterback, is very upset about this. He said he spent all the time after the game to watch the Barbers Hill celebration, and that he will avenge it next year. So that'll be a really interesting storyline in the 2022 season. This week, we are joined with a very special guest. Welcome on Shadow Creek safety, Dejuan Lewis. Dejuan, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. We've known each other for a little bit now. Been waiting all year to have you on. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Ella on here, but still glad to talk to you for what feels like the first time in forever.
Nah, for real. I ain't talked to you since the VYPE photo shoot.
That's right. Back in June, that late June over at HBU.
It's been like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because for a while we were working together quite a bit. Yeah, when 7th season was going on, when baseball season was going on.
It hopped because it went from 707 to baseball, right?
That's right.
You met me because we met at the championship tournament.
That's right.
Yeah.
You stayed busy all off season, and you have stayed busy all year. You guys got a big overtime win last week against Clear Creek. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But when we were talking to each other before we started this interview, I was just thinking of how crazy of the last 4 years you've had at Shadow Creek. You come in and they are runners up in the 5A D1 championship. Let's start off with that. What was that like as a freshman, watching that all go down? Huge step up for the program in one of the first few years.
Man, it felt like a dream. It was weird because I was kind of there to experience it, but I wasn't at the same time. Like, I wasn't there to experience all their flaws, all their mistakes, and how they bonded as a team. But I was there, but I wasn't there to see all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
But then it was different when my sophomore year came because it was the same team. Nobody really left. It was same friendship, same bonds, same family ties. It was just crazy to see how they didn't dwell on the past, and they changed the past and made their future their reality.
Yeah, I think people for years and years are always going to start programs. We know high schools are going up just about every single year, and they're going to look to see what Shadow Creek did in the first few years. Runner up 1 year, and then you go undefeated the next year, win a 5A D1 championship run. How crazy was that? I mean, I know the expectation was already there, but first year on varsity, there's so many talented players, guys that are playing on Saturday nights now. What was that like? How much pressure did you feel?
It really wasn't no pressure. Like, my sophomore year, I was just nothing but a special teams guy. Cause we had the dogs back then. Every player on the defense or offense was a D1 player. And then it was because I had one job and I was great. I had really fun with it. It was really fun having that one job because I would turn my defense up off special teams, because special teams could be a big part of a game. It could be it can make big decisions of a game and who wins and who loses. So doing that, special teams, kickoff return, that it helped the defense blow teams out to where I got the opportunity to get my film. And that's why I had some pretty solid film my sophomore year. I had a pretty good about 3 minutes, and then add 45 seconds of special teams because you put that on the back end.
For sure. I mean, you guys were blowing out people as you have done the last couple of years. So you go from the big boys in 5A D1, and then the realignment hits early in 2020, and you move to 6A. You move into my district, 23 6A.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference? And I know you realized it through about 2 or 3 weeks in those non-district games.
Oh, yeah.
What was the biggest difference between 5A and 6A that you could immediately see?
I mean, just the more bigger teams were, like the more people they had, or just like their depth charts. But skill wise, it really wasn't no difference, because some of the reason we lost those games because of us, because we made big mistakes and then they just capitalized on it. And then some things we've learned this year is to just take advantage of the opportunities they missed. Like, last year when we lost to North Shore, if we had big mistakes, they capitalized, like the pick six. If the wide receiver would have caught that ball, who knows how the game would have went. Because it was CJ. It was CJ, if I remember right.
Right.
And then because he dropped the slant, and then Denver took it to the house. So like I said, capitalize on our mistakes. They capitalized on it, and then that was the turning point of the game. So one thing I can say is we've been progressing and learning how to capitalize and make their mistakes into our big moments, and then that's what putting us on top and helping us win games.
You've had a lot of big moments this year. I mean, you dropped those 2 games, which a lot of people thought was kind of expected. You're playing 2 of the biggest, best teams in all of 6A, and then you get into district play and just kind of dominate like you expected to last year. What was the difference between the 2020 season and this year?
It was just 2020 season was crazy. It was a lot of inside diversity and just like a lot of bumping heads and just a lot of arguing. But now it's more of a family. It's more of, okay, if I get on you, it's not to make you mad or have you want to quit. It's for you to want to be better. Like, it would be 2020 season, it would be to where you get on somebody and it's like, bro, I don't want to hear that right now. Just leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? It was just a lot of this. But then now 2021 into 2022, it's just we don't really yell at each other as much, because it's like, okay, go to the next play. We're gonna get it. We go to the next play. You know what I'm saying? But it was a huge difference. And you can see that got us our division title.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just ran through 23 6A like a lot of people expected you to last year. And this year you had your best season individually. That's 6.9 tackles per game, 2 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. We've already talked about how busy of an offseason you've had. What were you doing, every single day to make sure that you were going to be able to improve?
Man, I was doing too much. I was hitting camp after camp. I was traveling because I had like 6 camps in June, because like just back to back weeks. Because as soon as the first camp let out, I hit SFA, I hit U of H, I hit Baylor, UTSA. Nah, UTSA was I'm tripping. UTSA was a visit. I hit SMU. Yeah. I hit SMU. And then I hit Texas. I was just all over the place. And then July, it was more baseball, because I was just doing too much. And then 707 riding up into camps, I had to take a little break from football. So I did baseball the whole July leading into August, and then August was getting ready for season.
Yeah, you were busy. You had a lot of things
Yeah,
going on. I
I
think
was
we
crazy.
saw each other 3 out of 4 days one
I had
time.
A&M too. That's what I forgot. I had A&M. That's what I forgot.
Well, we know that the deeper that we get into the playoffs, the more eyes are going to be on you. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You're one of the most under-offered players in the entire state. If anyone's seen your film, I don't know how they're not offering. But maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
So last week, you guys had to come back against Clear Creek to win in overtime. And, it's you're getting into playoff football. You're not playing teams that you're used to playing. What do you think went right in that game, and what do you think might have gone wrong?
One thing I could say, it was a lot of miscommunication in that game. A lot of misdirection. I can say that because they was doing everything they had at us because we was up by 2 scores and we could have shut them out, but it just the cards wouldn't fall in our hand, and then defense was like we start tripping a little bit, but we end up pulling it out and we earned our Monday. So we just gotta take it with a grain of salt and just be ready for Sea King this week.
Well, you played Sea King last year in the playoffs. You won that game. What do you remember about that game, and what have you been doing this week to prepare for it?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked me that because Sea King, I actually had the game winning stop. Well, it was weird because they was on the goal line. I was 4th down because remember I was playing a little bit of outside linebacker last year because one of our dudes got hurt. So I was on the tight end, and I put my shoulder into the tight because they were doing wildcat. I put my shoulder into the tight end and drove him, and then he got stuck on the running back, and then he tripped, and then my dude my inside linebacker made the tackle. So that was one of the huge moments in the game, and that's one of them. I remember that probably out of my whole Shadow Creek career, it's like one of my top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
top 3 moments that I've, you know what I'm saying? That's one of my top 3 moments for sure.
Well, it's going to be, one of the biggest games all week. So we wish you the best of luck in that. And I want to finish it off with this. And this is, kind of a really open-ended question. Shadow Creek has this championship culture. They've had it since the start, and you've been there almost the entire time. Why do you think that is?
It's the brotherhood we've created. It's all the behind the scenes stuff y'all don't see. It's the team, the running after practice, the after hours, just the team meetings, the team eats. The every Wednesday we go because we used to go to our DC's house. Just those type of things. He said we were gonna have the opportunity to do it this year because everything's been going on, but we should be able to get it done this week or next week. But it's just the behind the scenes stuff. Just we've been creating a family, and then that family has been just showing the younger brothers just how the tradition goes, and then that's what I'm trying to leave in these players right now, and my brothers that I'm playing with right now.
Well, you've bought in. Your actual brother has bought in. Coach Butler's bought in. This has become, one of the flagship programs in all of Texas high school football. Great to talk to you, and I hope we get to talk again soon.
I hope I get to see you again soon. I done missed you.
Good luck this week, man.
Good luck. Appreciate it.
Well, we want to thank Dejuan once again for coming on. Great guy. And we wish him the best of luck as he prepares to face Sea King this week. And now we will get into some picks. Last week, we picked 10 games. Ella, you were 7-3. I was 6-4. So you have the upper hand. But this week, we're picking 12. It's every single Houston area game in the 6A D1 and 6A D2 brackets. And let's go ahead and start it off with College Park and Bridgeland.
I think after the win Bridgeland just pulled over Klein Collins at the very end of the game, I think they have this one. I think it could be a pretty close game because College Park is a good team as well. But Bridgeland, I think, has come out of their funk that they were in during district and is ready to dominate throughout these playoffs.
Yeah, Bridgeland has a case where they're probably playing a better team in the first round than they are in the second. Klein Collins, I actually had them winning against Bridgeland. However, I'm taking Bridgeland in this one, and we're looking at next round. They're probably going to play Cedar Hill, who's a really tough team, and then you start to get in those true neutral site zones out of the area. So Bridgeland's got a tough road ahead of them. How about Willis and Tomball?
I think after Willis plays Decaney in the first round, they kind of played an easier team, and I don't think they're ready for the power that Tomball's about to come out with after this big win that they just had that shocked everyone. And I think Tomball's going to keep riding this. I think they're going to be our Cinderella story for this year, and I think they beat Willis in round 2.
I'm going to agree with you on that one as well. Willis is banged up as it is. DJ Lagway, I believe, coming off of an injury, barely got past Decaney. And on the other side, Tomball looked perfect out there. I mean, they on the box score 52-29, but most of those points came at the end when Tomball already had their backups in. So we're got the same Bridgeland and Tomball in the first 2 games. How about Stratford and Katy?
I think that, I mean, it's Katy. They've had a great season. They just keep beating everybody, and I don't think that's really going to change here in the second round. Stratford's a great team. They've had a phenomenal season, and I think they're going to make it pretty tough for Katy. But I think in the end, this Katy team is pretty special and is going to come out and win this game.
Yeah, huge props to Coach Rankin and his son this year, Nash Rankin, as the quarterback. They really turned around the Stratford program in no time. Only losses to Jersey Village. That's out of district and in district. It's unfortunate they have to play Katy in the second round, but unfortunately they will drop this game. So Sea King and Shadow Creek.
I am going to stay loyal to my Creek boys, and it isn't necessarily a bias because I do believe that this Shadow Creek team is very special this year, and they do tend to let up during games, and I think that they've learned, especially since almost losing to Clear Creek in round 1, that they're not going to be able to do that anymore. And I think they also understand that Sea King is a very great team, and even though they got 3rd in their district, they got 3rd behind Atascocita and North Shore, some of the biggest teams in 6A right now. And Sea King is not going to make it easy for them, but I think that the Sharks will come out and win this game, but it'll also be another close one.
This is the hardest one to choose this week, and it's not even that close. I think that Shadow Creek has had a great year. They had to play a lot of tough games out of district, but looking at how the games went last week and seeing Sea King's schedule, I'm going to take Sea King in this one. How about Memorial and Cinco Ranch?
I think everyone was kind of just surprised that Cinco Ranch is still going, and props to them. They're from that tough Katy district, and they've got a great team under their belt. And I looked at the stats of it. Cinco Ranch is a very good first half team, whereas Memorial isn't, and they tend to have to come back during the second half. But I think Cinco Ranch is gonna build a lead better in the first half like they have done, and the majority of their wins, that is going to be hard for Memorial to catch up. So I think Cinco Ranch is going to head through the second round to the third.
Yeah, Cinco Ranch coming out of that Katy district. They had a year, turning a program around kind of all of a sudden. I think they win this one, but I picked Heights to beat Memorial. I was wrong about that. I'd hate to be wrong about Memorial 2 weeks in a row. I do think Cinco Ranch is going to win this one, and maybe pretty easily. About Summer Creek and Dawson.
Both of these teams are very good. Summer Creek, my bad guys, I did not predict them to even be in the playoff picture, and they shocked me. And I think it's very awesome that they've even made it to the second round. Like, great job to the Bulldogs. But Dawson was another kind of surprising team this year that didn't perform as well as people expected. But I think that, they beat Clear Falls, a team that both of us kind of predicted would go rather far in the playoff picture. And I think Dawson has realized, like the majority of these other teams, that it's playoffs, you win or you go home, and they don't want to end the season quite yet because they want to redeem themselves a little bit. So I think Dawson takes it over Summer Creek, but do not underestimate Kelvin Banks Jr. and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, we both picked Clear Falls last week. We had Luke Vidal on. He was very excited about the game, and we knew what they did last year. But Dawson came out hot. I'll have to give it to him. They stuck in this game for a long time and eventually pulled out a win. And I think they're going to win again. So Dawson likely playing Cinco Ranch. Those winners of the Memorial, Cinco Ranch, and Summer Creek Dawson game will play each other. So that could be a great game. Any four of those teams, probably playing Katy in the region finals will be really interesting. But Spring and Klein Kane.
Both Spring and Klein Kane scored 52 points in round one and just well outscored their opponents. And it was great plays from both teams. But I think Spring has just carried a lot of momentum through the entire season, and Klein Kane has proved a lot of people wrong as well. But I think Spring just continues to carry this on. And, they're Will's favorite team, but I think they do win this game and head to the third round.
They are my favorite team, and they beat my second favorite team in the Woodlands last week. That game was close for a while, and then Bishop Davenport, Joey Fusel, the whole crew over there at Spring opened it up near the end. Great season for Klein Kane. They bounced off of, losing their top player in the beginning of the season. Matthew Golden has really shined. He's currently uncommitted after Gary Patterson left TCU. So he's going to be a great get for a college program. This Klein Kane team was a lot more talented than we made them out to be at the beginning of the season. Props to them. I'm taking Spring. Westfield and Klein Oak.
Klein Oak had a great round one. They took down Cy Ranch. Everyone was surprised because that seems to be the common theme of last week, that just a lot of teams won that no one thought they would. And congrats to Klein Oak. But they're about to play Westfield, one of the best teams in 6A right now. And I think that they've had a phenomenal season, but Westfield is going to just keep winning, I think.
Yeah, Westfield is going to keep winning. I actually don't have them losing for a while. We'll get into the championship picks in a week or two. Klein Oak was great in every game I saw them in this year. We've already talked about that Klein district basically dominating in the first round and just about every single game. But Westfield, they've got the talent. They've got much more talent than almost any team in the state. They'll win this game. As great as Klein Oak is, I think this one's going to be a blowout as well. But Jersey Village and Tompkins.
These are two very good teams. Jersey Village, Tompkins, they're two teams that had great district seasons, had good runs throughout the entire season as a whole. But Jersey Village has kind of just been taking a lot of teams by storm this season. And Tompkins, I think it'll be a very close game because Tompkins, obviously coming from that Katy district, is also a very strong team. But I think Jersey Village is going to keep riding the momentum that they've built throughout their entire district season and win this game in a very close score.
This and the Sea King Shadow Creek game were the two hardest to pick. Tompkins lost one game this year, and it was against Katy, who we think is a top 5 team in the state. Jersey Village didn't lose any games. And really, when we started picking, I thought I was going to pick the other team. But based on what I saw from Tompkins last week and what I saw from Jersey Village a few weeks ago against Stratford, I'm going to take Tompkins in this one. But North Shore and Clear Springs.
I think North Shore gets this one. They're going to the third round. Clear Springs did have a great game against Pearland, taking them down, but they're playing North Shore, a team with some of the most talented offensive and defensive weapons in the state. And I think they're definitely the underdogs going into this game. So I think North Shore takes this one out.
North Shore dominated Adobe team that looked like one of the best in the Houston area at one point in the season. I think they were 4-0 out of district. That game was not close. Clear Springs is a good team, but we didn't think they were even going to come out of the first round. I think North Shore has another blowout this week. What about Cy-Fair and Ridgepoint?
I think that Ridgepoint has had a great season. Cy-Fair has they struggled to find their rhythm a little bit because they're in that kind of rebuilding. But Ridgepoint is just going to continue this great season that they've had and win this game.
I will agree with you that Cy-Fair and Lamar game was not pretty from what I've heard. 16-14 did go down pretty late in the game. Ridgepoint is going to continue their success. They've looked like one of the best teams. They'll win this game and they'll have a great one set up against the winner of Atascocita and Dickinson. And that's the game that we're going to talk about right now. So for your final pick of the week, who are you picking in that one?
For me, I actually think this is the hardest game to pick because these are two really, really good teams. Atascocita, just second in their district, lost to North Shore. Like, that's a great team to lose to. Dickinson has had an overall great season. Got first in their district. They both make it through round one fairly easily. And it's a really tough pick for me. But I think I'm going to go, because of the momentum and the energy that they've had all season and the victories they've been able to pull out, I think I'm going to go with Atascocita.
I've seen Atascocita the last 2 weeks now. I saw them to end the regular season against Beaumont Westbrook, dominated that one. Saw them against Deer Park, at Deer Park, and they dominated that one. As much as I would like to see Ridgepoint and Dickinson play each other again, because that one was week 2 this year, went to overtime. That was an incredible game, probably the best game I've seen all year. I think Atascocita gets this one, but that'll be another close one. So we were very similar on our picks this week. I believe we only had 2 that were different. So we will likely have very similar records coming into next week. Any final thoughts before we end this episode, Ella?
I'm really excited for round 2. I think that we might be expecting some more winners that aren't necessarily the ones you typically choose. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see who heads into round 3 and to be able to watch some of these Cinderella stories and some of these, district and playoff dominators kind of continue in their playoff run.
Well, it'll be regional semi time the next time we see you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all of the Texas high school football. For El Heston, I'm Will Tarbov. Thanks for tuning in.